You know, for literally thousands of years, people have been looking up at the stars or at nature or even just at numbers, trying to find some answers. And look, this isn't just about simple fortune telling. We're talking about these incredibly deep, complex, ancient systems: astrology, Ayurveda, numerology. These were really humanity's first shot at drawing a map of our place in the whole universe. I mean, it's the big question, right? We all ask it. How do we find our place in this huge, sometimes chaotic universe? We all want a little guidance. And you know what? These ancient practices, they were the original frameworks, the first user manuals humanity created to try and figure that out. And this desire to map what we can't see, it's always been with us. I mean, just look at this. On one side, you have these incredibly complex calculations from the ancient Surya Satanta, and on the other, a modern idea of Earth's energy grids. It's the same impulse, really, trying to understand the invisible forces that shape our lives. It's this thread that runs right through human history. All right, so here's the game plan for our journey today. First, we're going to look at the ancient roots of all this. Then, we'll dive into how these systems actually work from the inside. After that, we'll tackle the big one, the scientific perspective. Then, we'll get into the psychology of why this stuff feels so real to people. And finally, we'll check out how this ancient wisdom is making a huge comeback today.
Okay, so to really get a handle on these systems, we've got to jump in our time machine and go way back. I'm talking long before we had modern science as we know it. These practices, they were the first sciences. They were humanity's first serious attempt to study the patterns of the universe and figure out where we fit into the grand scheme of things.
And this wasn't just in one place. This quest was absolutely massive. It was global. We're talking old Babylonia, ancient India, China during the Zhou dynasty, the Hellenistic world. I mean, for thousands and thousands of years, all these different cultures were building these super elaborate systems, all based on looking up at the sky and trying to make sense of it all. Okay, so now it's time to pop the hood and see how these engines actually run. If we want to understand why these systems have had such a grip on people for centuries, we have to explore them on their own terms to really get their internal logic. So let's kick things off with Vedic astrology, also known as Jyotisha. And right away, let's be clear, this is way more than just predicting the future. Think of the natal chart, that snapshot of the sky the moment you were born, as a kind of spiritual blueprint. It's supposed to lay out your karma, your spiritual journey, your whole life's purpose. And listen, this is not just some vague, you will meet a tall, dark stranger kind of thing. No way. The system is built on these incredibly specific, detailed rules. Take this quote from an old text. If Sahaj Lord is in Bandhu Bhava, the native will acquire a wicked spouse. See? A specific planet, a lord, in a specific part of the sky, a house, leads to a super specific prediction. It's like a giant cosmic logic puzzle. And this is really the key idea, the absolute core of it. Practitioners believe that these grahas, these planetary energies, they're not just out there in space. They believe these energies are also inside of us. It's like as above, so below. They're a mirror reflecting the deep, woven fabric of our own karmic patterns. All right, next up, let's talk Ayurveda. The name literally means the science of life. So instead of mapping the stars, this system maps our internal world. The whole goal is to create balance between three core energies, or doshas. And the idea is that every single person has their own unique mix of these energies. And everything, what you eat, your daily schedule, it's all about keeping your specific personal blend in perfect harmony. And then we have numerology. Just looking at this sheet, you can see how structured it is. It's a system that maps out your life by, well, doing the math. It takes your name and your birthday, converts them into numbers, and then analyzes those numbers to uncover things like your core energy, your karmic lessons, and the big one, your life path number, which is supposed to point you toward your true purpose. Okay, so hard pivot time. We've seen how these systems work from the inside out, right? We get the logic. But how do these ancient maps hold up when you compare them to the map drawn by modern science? Well, this is where it gets really interesting. First, you just have to start with what people actually experience, because people report some really profound, life-changing results. I mean, read this review from an Ayurveda clinic. Somebody who lost weight, whose chronic pain and migraines improved, they found healing where modern medicine maybe couldn't help. And it's exactly this kind of powerful personal story that makes these systems so incredibly compelling for so many. But then, everything changed. See, for centuries, astrology and astronomy were basically two sides of the same coin. They were intertwined. But when the Enlightenment hit and the scientific method became the gold standard, they had a major breakup. They went their separate ways, and astrology pretty much lost its seat at the academic table. So the main scientific objections really boil down to three big things. First, there's no known way it could work. I mean, the gravitational pull from a planet like Jupiter is way, way weaker than the pull from the building you're sitting in right now. Second, the claims can be so vague that you can't really prove them false. And third, when you actually test the specific predictions in a controlled study, like the famous Mars effect for athletes, they just don't seem to hold up. So it's really crucial to get the difference here. Astronomy is the science of what stars and planets are, their physics, their chemistry. Astrology, on the other hand, is a system for interpreting what they mean for us down here. Think of them as two siblings who grew up in the same house but chose totally different career paths. Okay, so that leads to a huge question, right? If the scientific evidence isn't really there, why does this stuff feel so deeply true and accurate for millions of people? Well, the answer might not be up in the stars, but actually right inside our own heads. We're talking about the fascinating quirks of the human brain. One of the biggest players here is something called confirmation bias. It's super simple, really. It just means our brains are wired to pay attention to the stuff that confirms what we already believe. We remember the one time a prediction came true, and we conveniently forget the 10 times it didn't. And this isn't just about astrology. We do this all the time. Like this person on Reddit says, why do we trust our gut feelings? You know, that bad vibe you get about someone who later turns out to be trouble? It's because we remember the hits and forget the misses. It's a really powerful psychological magnet. And then you've got the Forer effect, which is also called the Barnum effect. This one is brilliant. It's our tendency to think that a really vague personality description is somehow tailored just for us. For example, if I said, you have a great need for other people to like and admire you, you might think, wow, that's me. But who doesn't that apply to? It feels personal, but it's actually incredibly general. All right, for our last section, let's look at what's happening right now. Because far from being relics of the past, these ancient maps are being rediscovered. They're having a massive comeback, and sometimes in the most surprising ways. Okay, check this out, because this is where the ancient world meets the 21st century. This is from a 2023 research paper where scientists basically asked an AI, a machine learning model, to see if it could predict a person's job, whether they were a doctor, a professor, or a business person, based only on their Vedic horoscope. And here are the results. Now, don't worry about the jargon. That true positive rate is just how often the AI got it right. The best one, it guessed correctly 57% of the time. Now think about it. If you were just guessing randomly between 3 jobs, you'd be right about 33% of the time. So 57% is definitely better than chance. It's not a slam dunk, for sure. But it's interesting. It's like a faint signal in all the static, something that modern science is just now starting to maybe tune into. So all of this brings us to one final, really big question. For centuries, the debate has been, are these ancient maps true? Are they factually correct? But maybe that's not the only question that matters. Is a map only useful if it perfectly describes the territory? Or could its real value lie in something else? In how it helps us imagine our place in the world and navigate the journey of our own lives?